What's good? It's your boy Fanon. All right, man. Errol Spence Jr. about to get back in the ring. Carlos Ocampo. It's been finalized according to ESPN.com and also BoxingScene.com. First orders first. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. I want to do live streams. We're trying to do one live stream for every 2 recorded processed videos, and the only way to know when they're going to be is to have the bell icon and get notified of that. And I really want to continue to grow the attendance for the live streams, because it's a real good time. It's a good way to have real-time conversations with subscribers, where if you can ask me questions, I can ask you questions, and it's a really good way to communicate. So if you don't mind, please do that. That said, Errol Spence Jr., who just got done beating Lamont Peterson in an absolute blowout, is going to be back in the ring on June 16th. Errol Spence Jr. will face the opponent everyone expected on June 16th. An ESPN.com report early Wednesday morning stated that the promoters for Spence, the unbeaten IBF welterweight champion, and mandatory challenger Carlos Ocampo have reached an agreement for them to fight that night. Showtime will televise the Spence-Ocampo match from an undetermined venue in the Dallas area. The IBF ordered Spence, 23-0 with 20 KOs, of DeSoto, Texas, to make his next title defense against the unproven Ocampo, 22-0 with 13 KOs, last month. A purse bid was scheduled for March 6th at the IBF's headquarters in Springfield, New Jersey, but the IBF informed the involved parties Tuesday night that it was canceled because Tom Brown, the promoter representing Spence, and Xanafer Promotions, who represent Ocampo, came to an agreement. The 27-year-old Spence, who's generally regarded as one of the best boxers pound for pound in the sport, will make his second defense of the IBF welterweight title he won by knocking out Kell Brook, 36-2 with 25 KOs, in the 11th round, May 27th in Sheffield, England, Brooks' hometown. The powerful southpaw stopped the former 2-division champion Lamont Peterson, 35-4-1 with 17 KOs, of Washington, D.C. in the 8th round, January 20th at Barclays Center in Brooklyn. The 22-year-old Ocampo hasn't beaten a top contender during his climb up the IBF rankings. He's ranked number 3 among IBF's 147-pound contenders. The top 2 spots are vacant. However, that makes Ocampo the leading available contender for the mandatory defense Spence is due to make. Campo will fight outside of Mexico for the first time when he travels to the Dallas area to challenge Spence. He last fought November 11th when Ocampo stopped fellow Mexican Dario Thurman, 14-4-11 in the 7th round in Chihuahua, Mexico. Yeah, so haven't seen Carlos Ocampo, and I just have to believe that this is going to be a good homecoming for Errol Spence Jr. I'm happy about that. For the Dallas fans, there's a lot of people that subscribe to the channel who pound man down, who've been representing and standing up for Errol Spence for a long time. Of course, Black Fight Fan TV is from the Dallas area. DFW Boxing is back. That'd be Dallas Fort Worth Boxing is back. Also, subscribe to the channel that has been talking about Errol Spence fighting in his hometown, Dallas, Texas, for a while. I think that's a good thing to help him continue to grow his fan base, or in this case, keep his fan base energized, because I'm quite sure that a lot of the people who are from Dallas that would support Errol Spence Jr. weren't able to travel to Sheffield, England, or might not be able to travel to New York City or Vegas for that matter. So to have him be able to fight in his hometown, I think is going to be terrific. Now, I had done a video earlier about the whole purse bid situation, where I thought that this fight was going to happen, And I think that the reason that it was going to go to purse bid, and for people that don't know what a purse bid is when two parties, when a champion has a mandatory or a sanctioning body mandates that a fight happen, they give the two parties who are negotiating, in this case, Errol Spence Jr. and Carlos Ocampo, 30 days, I believe, to come to an agreement. If they're not able to come to an agreement, then that organization will have a purse bid, which will allow a different promoter or the two promoters to, basically is an open bid on the fight. And it allows other people to, in an auction style, put their dollar bids in there to see if they can get the fight. So, and when it goes to a purse bid, the amount of money that's paid that the promoter, the winning promoter, bids is divided for the between the champion and the challenger, or the two title eliminators. In the case of a title eliminator, I do believe it's always a 70 for the IBF. It's always a 75% split towards the higher ranked guy, a 25% split for the lower ranked guy. In the case with the IBF, if it's the champion fighting a number 1 or 2 guy, it's 75% for the champion, 75% for the champion, 25% of the purse bid goes to the challenger. In this case, because Carlos Ocampo is the number 3 ranked IBF welterweight, and Errol Spence Jr. is a champion, the Errol Spence Jr. will receive 85% of the purse bid. Carlos Ocampo would get 15% of that. Now, if Errol Spence Jr. is paid what he was paid, again, what he's paid in his last fight on paper, right? I know beforehand, there's talks about him making $3 million. I don't know where that came from, as far as like maybe he made that much money when everything was said and done. But what was publicized on the sheets that are released by the commission said 1.25 million in guaranteed purse. So if he's going to make the same purse, then the 15%, haven't done the math, pretty much means that Carlos Ocampo in a purse bid wouldn't have made any less than $130,000. So for it not to go to purse bid, I have to assume that Carlos Ocampo, that the PBC, through this promoter, Tom Brown, who honestly, man, I've never heard of before, but that promoter must have offered Carlos Ocampo more money than he would have gotten in the purse bid to make that happen. So I'm glad whatever happened. We'll see how much money people make. We'll talk about that again in June, God willing. But this fight is on. As far as what's going to happen in this fight, I mean, this is going to be a tune-up. This has got to be viewed not as a tune-up, because I think Errol Spence Jr. is most definitely already tuned up. So he won the belt. He had a voluntary against the best voluntary that he could find. And now he's going to fight the highest ranked mandatory. So I don't have a problem with this fight. After having seen the Ray Robinson fight against Ugas and Ray Robinson, I was kind of looking forward to that. I had felt that Carlos Ocampo was going to sign this because, when else is he going to get this type of money? That's going to be a good payday. Even if he winds up getting 15%, even if it had gone to purse bid and he winds up getting 15% of that and couldn't negotiate himself up, I can't believe that Carlos Ocampo is getting anywhere near $100,000 in anywhere near $130,000, $140,000 fighting in Chihuahua, Mexico, right? So this is going to be a good payday for him. So I'm glad to see the fight happen. It's not Errol Spence's fault that this is the IBF champion. This is the IBF number 3 contender. It would have been nice to see if, the IBF had ranked somebody, had filled those spots, those number 1 and 2 spots, and, we could have maybe had somebody else in there. But, the rankings are what the rankings are. And I see this as a good opportunity, again, for Errol Spence Jr. to fight in front of his hometown. And, he very well, he's had spectacular performances against Kell Brook, back-to-back spectacular performances against Kell Brook and Lamont Peterson. I cannot imagine that we're going to run into a situation where you had with Robinson, Castellanos, and Yurioka's Gamboa last year, or Robinson Castellanos did the same thing to what's his name, Gabriel Corrales. I think he did the same shot Corrales too. Corrales got lucky on those cuts. So, there's an outside chance that this is a guy, real scrappy cat from Mexico that's gonna, that could cause some unexpected problems. But this is a 95-5 fight, right? This is something where Errol Spence should go in there and chop him down like a tree, get him out of there, look good in front of Dallas fans. Now, after this, skipping past this fight, which is never safe to do in boxing, this is just it's just a filler for what people really want to see. Right? People really want to see the fight between Errol Spence Jr. I want to see. I ain't gonna talk about the people. I want to see the bout between Errol Spence Jr. and Keith Thurman. I wouldn't mind seeing a bout between Errol Spence Jr. and Danny Garcia, or Errol Spence Jr. and Sean Porter. And I'm hoping, Errol Spence Jr. and Sean Porter. But it just doesn't seem like, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, that these guys are really very interested in making that fight happen. So we'll see if that's the case or not. Man, this is a great time in the middle of a video for somebody to, the gardener to come up next to the window with the with the weed whacker. I hope you guys can't hear that. It's kind of irritating, but so forgive me for losing my train of thought. But I'm just thinking, man, that at least we get to see this. At least this is going to be a stay busy fight for him, and and we'll see. I mean, we know what's going to happen. So as far as the rest of the welterweight division, of course, you have Sean Porter, and you have Keith Thurman, who's a WBA and the WBC champion. And he, as far as I know, has not announced the date that he's gonna fight somebody. I've heard May, but there hasn't been anything written in stone about that yet. So I'm still a little anxious to see when it is that he's going to take that, whatever that tune-up fight he's going to have. And despite all the talk about it, and I've said this before, I understand and I can respect Keith Thurman's need to have a tune-up, but I will give him credit for the fact that he deserves to get a tune-up, or it's reasonable to ask for a tune-up. I got to tell you that George Groves just separated, I do believe, a separated shoulder against Chris Eubank in the World Boxing Super Series semifinal. And he just asked for like a month postponement or something like that. So he just asked to get the fight pushed back a month to let his separated shoulder heal that he suffered in the fight with Chris Eubank. So, I kind of wonder just that little, and I do believe that I heard that argument originally with the Boxing Clinic and more, so I want to give him a shout out on making that observation. If you guys haven't checked out the Boxing Clinic and more, definitely check out that man's channel. It's a really good viewpoints on boxing. But yeah, if George Groves is willing to get a separated shoulder, take a little, let it heal and get back in the ring, for the desire to defend his WBA super middleweight title, then, could it be that Keith Thurman should be able to do the same thing? Right? I mean, he's basically taken, he's almost taken off a year. It's been almost a year since Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman got in the ring. So, and then I know that he I think he had surgery I can't remember when he had surgery, but the dude's been out a long time, man. He's been out a long time, and now he needs to get a, kind of a soft touch up or whatever before he can get in the ring. But, George Groves separated his shoulder and he's ready to get back in there. Now, I know that there are some differences between the two in that George Groves, has been in training. He's had, multiple solid fights, since, this year. I mean, he fought to get it. He fought at least two. He fought one to get it, one to get last year, one to get it, one to get in, one in his first round for the World Boxing Series, at least. I don't know. I can't recall if there was two, but there's at least one. And then he fought Chris Eubank. And then, so now he's trying to get in there with Callum Smith and hey man, he's not using that shoulder as a reason not to have that fight, when he very well could do it. He could say, hey man, my shoulder's injured, and so I'm not going to be available for this World Boxing Super Series final against Callum Smith. And since, you know, I got the WBA belt, then, you know, what do I care? You know what I mean? What do I care whether or not I get the World Boxing Super Series title? I can wait and see if I can go try to get more money fighting, you know, whoever. Maybe try to entice Billy Joe Saunders to move up, right? So, you know, there's a lot of room for interpretation in that and all that stuff. But, you know, I'm starting to become, you know, I want to give him his one tune-up fight. But, man, after that, man, let's get it hot. All right? Now, it's real unfortunate that they have that the WBC is basically mandating rematches take place between Keith Thurman and Sean Porter, and Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia, right? And God forbid Keith Thurman loses one of those, and, you know, he's got a rematch clause in it that, you know, and then so he's got to take another one. You know, it just seems like it's going to be a long time. That might be the latter part of 2019 or 2020 before we can see that happen. So, but, you know, since that's so far off, you know, Errol Spence Jr.'s got to stay busy, right? But this mandatory will be, you know, hope when he gets by, if and when he gets by this mandatory, which honestly, man, like I said, it's like 95 to 5%. I mean, he's got to be considered a massive underdog against a guy, you know, 22-year-old guy, I know he's a Mexican fighter. And, you know, so I'm not sure how many, you know, fights that he's had that are, you know, I have to suspect none of them would have been at the level of Errol Spence Jr. And this is just going to be a massive jump up. But, you know, I just don't believe that the dude's going to be able to present much of a problem, obviously. But then what does Errol Spence do after that, right? Seeing as he's not going to be able to have, you know, you got the little circle jerk going on over there with the WBC, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, and Sean Porter. You know, maybe he can try to do what I'd love to see, and you have Omar Figueroa. He could back this up again with an Omar Figueroa fight, right, in Dallas as well. Omar Figueroa is supposed to be fighting Adrian Bronner, and I believe that is actually coming up pretty quick in April, because it's going to be Omar Figueroa, and then it's going to be Omar Figueroa, Adrian Bronner, and then I'm not sure who. I've heard rumors, but I can't remember the name of who Gervonta Davis is going to be fighting on that card. And I also know that since there was an injury to Centino, that Jamal Charlo's on that card as well. So that's right around the corner. But I'm favoring Omar Figueroa to get out of that. But that's at 140. If Omar Figueroa gets out of that with the win over Adrian Bronner, then, you know, that he had previously called out Errol Spence. So, you know, maybe we can see that. I think that would be an entertaining fight. Obviously, once again, I would think Errol Spence would, you know, beat him as well. And, you know, but the question then remains is, you know, how is fighting these guys that are, you know, lower level competition going to affect Errol Spence when he has to get in the ring with top notch guys? Right, I don't think he needs to, you know, jump up to 154 pounds or anything like that. I do think that eventually these guys are going to come to him, and that he does need to stay pat. You know, but in the meantime, you know, he's got to stay busy. He said before that he wants to do 3 fights a year. I think that is, especially if you're going to have this type of competition with Carlos Ocampo, you know, that you probably do need to do that, you know, make some money or whatever, grow your fan base, give yourself an opportunity to have, you know, exciting fights. But, you know, truth be told, Errol Spence doesn't need anybody's soft touch or mandatories like this in order to make him look spectacular. I think that this thing might be, you know, the same. It's probably going to look a lot like Lamont Peterson versus Errol Spence, because I do believe Lamont Peterson, from what I see and what I know, is a higher level fighter than this guy. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm happy to see him get in there. I'm really glad that it's going to be in Dallas, Texas. Dallas, Texas is not too far away from me, so there's a good chance I might be able to actually get to that fight. It'd be nice. If anybody wants to hit me on the about how to get some press passes for that, man, I might actually do, you know, a non-live and effect type press coverage for that fight. But, you know, it is what it is. Oh, and also Terrence Crawford. I think Terrence Crawford is a little bit ways out, man. There's just a lot of separation in things in the top of the welterweight division, like silos, where you have this whole WBC, WBA silo in the welterweights with Thurman, Garcia, and Porter. Then you have the WBO silo with Manny Pacquiao and Jeff Horn and Terrence Crawford. And then over here with this IBF thing, you have Errol Spence Jr. And, you know, the pickings look a little slimmer over there in the IBF with what the IBF is setting up. But, you know, hopefully at least we can get Omar Figueroa. Hopefully we can get Omar Figueroa later this year. I think that would be great. I wouldn't mind Ugas. Ugas did look good against Ray Robinson. So, you know, having that Cuban style might do Errol Spence some justice. But, you know, it is what it is, man. And I'm looking forward to the fights. And with that, I'm out. Peace.